Let's start out my video with the correction. I did a moronic thing. I'm well aware now that I got myself into an emotional point where I was so angry and annoyed with the Virginia GOP that I did not state something correctly. And well, I'm going to correct that right now at the very beginning because, well, I did something moronic. Instead of Dennis Free getting removed from the Virginia GOP, which he probably needs to be, he is the instigator of the loyalty pledges. No, it was Don Jones plus the person I mentioned plus a few other people. And also somebody says that the entire SRP membership was also part of the removal. Okay. I am sorry that I made that mistake, people. I'm human. I make mistakes. This is a one person operation. I make mistakes. So, let's get into what I'm going to do this video on. Instead of loyalty pledges, the state of Virginia has 5 things that it needs to pay attention to. It's not paying attention to those things if it's worrying about loyalty pledges, which let's put it this way. I could put out a 5-hour video of me doing nothing unedited but talking about how stupid, historically, loyalty pledges are. To you morons in the Virginia GOP, and hey, I am willing to say that I can be a moron at times, so yes, don't take it so personally because everybody does moronic things. It just happens to be that y'all are doing more moronic things than I normally do, which is saying something. Let's take a look at one thing that has nothing to do with that 5 that I'm going to go into. The Democrat Party, which you seem to be trying to model yourself out of here in Virginia, why, I have no idea, to pay off their debts, put Hillary Clinton in instead of what her party wanted, which was the pro communist Bernie, to be running against Trump in 2016. This past year, the Democrat Party did a massive loyalty test by protecting loyalty pledge thing in protecting Biden, but then putting in Kamala Harris as the presidential candidate and spending way too much money to fail that miserably. So, no, we don't need that in the state of Virginia. But let's get into the 5 things that you need to be working on instead of loyalty pledges. Also, real quick, um, Facebook is giving me problems, and also I'm trying to build this up. So if you want to help me build a community, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build a community. Down in my link tree down below, I've got a link to my link tree. I've got a MeWe and I've got a Facebook. Yes, I also have a Patreon, but let's go with Facebook and MeWe because you don't have to pay anything. You should already, hopefully, y'all are already part of that. Hey, join those for me. I want to start hearing from people. I want to build a community where we're all talking to each other so I can start finding what people are really wanting me to talk about. Okay, so let's get into these 5 things.
Howdy, y'all. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. What we have here is a channel to communicate. I want you folks to be thinking by the time you leave my videos. Why? Because I'm tired of people talking via what other people tell them to think. So, watch my video and enjoy the chance to think for yourself.
Okay, the first thing that we need to focus on as a state, not just a political party. Let's get away from politics on this one. Even though it's turned into a political issue, we have a county in the state of Virginia that is doing its best to release every predator that they can because these folks are criminal aliens. Now, mind you, we're only hearing about the ones that are criminal aliens because this is a major push right now. It's a political thing. But if they're willing to lighten the sentence or just flat out free these individuals that prey on children and others, and yes, one of these people that I know for certain literally preys on children, has done so multiple times and has been deported multiple times. But we have a county, and that's Fairfax County, and there are probably other counties that do this, or independent cities as well, that do this, where they don't just free these criminal aliens, they are probably doing this with other predators, with these other criminals. Oh, we've got to be nice because they're criminals, even though they prey on children. They prey on the vulnerable, such as women, elderly, Democrat men, the weak among us. So we've got to fix this. And if we are focusing as a Republican Party on loyalty pledges, well, guess what? We aren't actually helping those that are vulnerable in this state. And I'm just focusing on the state right now. This is a state that I'm living in. I don't want this to happen. I've got too many friends and family in this state. I've got friends and family elsewhere, but this is the state I'm living in. I know people that are, I know somebody fixing to be in Fairfax County that is a young individual that's fixing to go to college there. So, no, I don't want to see this person hurt, nor do I want to see others hurt because of this. This is something that we have to fix. And the GOP seems to be the only people that are working to fix this. So, guess what, GOP? This is the number one issue we need to fix. Here's something that's somewhat crime related. It is in a lot of ways because of what they do. But the homeless situation here in Virginia has grown. I have stated that I live in Virginia Beach, and I go walking at night because where I live next to one of the major thoroughfares, and I need exercise according to my doctor. It's the only exercise that he really is happy with me doing. And I don't want to get run over because, well, this is a military town. We have folks that can't seem to figure out how to drive on the correct side of the road, let alone how to drive correctly. So, my question is to you, what is Virginia's answer to homelessness? Because this breeds crime if it gets out of control. It hurts, especially in a place like Virginia Beach, which focuses on tourism. It hurts tourism. People don't want to visit somewhere that's got a lot of homeless folks that are just, living all over the place. And I'm not wanting to see mass arrest. I'm wanting to see viable solutions. Well, after studying some of the Democrat solutions, which actually turn into money pits that are only useful in enriching certain Democratic individuals, well, the Republican Party could actually find a way to figure out how to get some of these folks, who, by the way, are barely, some of these are like 20-year-old guys. These are folks that are willing to work. Well, no, they're not willing to work. That's probably the problem right there. But we need to get them off the streets because, well, it looks like we have all kinds of problems there. In other words, let me quit waxing stupidity and get into the main point of this. Folks, we have a homeless problem, or a lot of which is caused by democratic solutions such as let's flood everywhere with illegal immigrants so that we can have more votes in Congress. But we need to fix this problem. And let me tell you something, the Republican Party is probably the only viable solution to find a real solution right now. Now, it's going to take out all of our disparate voices. It really will. So quit focusing on loyalty pledges and start figuring out how we can actually help people. That's kind of your job. We have a problem with the GOP as it stands with the people that are being in power. If you, as a Virginia GOP leadership, I doubt any of y'all are listening, but I'm hoping to God that somebody does. Here's your problem. You guys have made this past election some of the biggest screw ups that I'm just looking at it going, why? How? Really? I mean, seriously. Let's go into one candidate. I don't remember his name. I'm not going to look him up. I don't care about his name. But you had a gentleman who ran for Congress who got to do a national magazine article spread in which he was talking about family and was photographed with a wife and children. The problem was is that he it was not his wife and children. He borrowed them. Yes, if you're listening to this and didn't know about this, yeah, this really happened. We had a national candidate in Donald Trump with his vice presidential candidate with brother Jarhead JD Vance, who, along with several others, went on to several podcasts. Yet we had none of that in this state. The folks in Virginia were. I saw one interview. One of the guys that ran was so dull that I literally had to turn it off because I was sitting here falling asleep listening to his interview. Now, you're going, well, this is individual. This wasn't the primary. This was the general election. And if you're running people for Congress in this state under the general election, and there is not state party anything, there's not anybody there going, hey, let's see how we can help you. Let's see how we can work together across the state. If there's not somebody of the state party involved in a general election campaign on that kind of level, then you guys lost the point of what you should be doing. There should be some interactions going on. There should be help advising. Somebody should have been there and said, don't borrow the wife and children of a friend. Somebody should have. Somebody in the campaign, actually, the person himself should have gone, this doesn't seem like a good idea. We have some of the most idiotic campaigns going on. Hung Cow, who I voted for, he seemed like somebody I would be willing to vote for. How many people actually knew who he was? He was running against somebody who had massive money behind him, had massive everything behind him, and you people did what? Because I barely saw anything with Hung Cow. And like I said, I would have voted, or I did vote for him. I don't regret my vote for him, but you people don't seem to get the point that you're supposed to be actually working to, I don't know, actually get people elected. I I'm a dumb redneck. I don't know these things, you know. But hey, yeah, y'all people are morons. The fourth reason to not have loyalty pledges comes down to a simple premise. The Republican Party, for over a century, has been a big tent party. Now, you may be going, but it's conservative. Um, I would argue with you that most of the mainstream Republicans, the Mitt Romney faction, and I go after Mitt Romney because I really don't like the man. Anybody who can be the governor Massachusetts as a Republican. Yeah, no, he's not conservative, and he's one of the big Republicans in this nation. We have disparate voices. We've been a big tent party for a long time. Take a look at our current presidential administration. Trump, former Democrat. JD Vance, who I think's always been Republican, but he's wasn't for Trump at the beginning of 2016. Uh, RFK, I don't think we need to go into a Kennedy other than John Kennedy from Louisiana. He's a Kennedy. I mean, seriously. Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat, has some fairly liberal ideas, but she's been embraced. Um, at one point, Reagan was a Democrat. This is a Republican Party. We take in different voices. The conservatives have held the voice for a long time, but a loyalty pledge is not what most conservatives that I know. Actually, I may not know. I know quite a few conservatives. I don't know many conservatives who would choose a loyalty pledge. Why? Because conservatives disagree with each other. Only we're willing to work together even when we disagree with each other. Tim Pool recently had an interview where he was going over the same thing. We are a party that allows different voices to be heard. We listen to each other, have intelligent discourse most of the time, and we work out what everybody is wanting to work on, and we've got a pretty good way of dealing with things. Heck, if you're listening to any of the news that's going on, we normally stand with the 80 on 80-20 issues. Well, loyalty pledges gets us away from that. It takes away one of our biggest strengths. In Virginia, we have folks that live in Wise or Bristol. We have people that live in Hampton Roads. We have people that live in the Washington, D.C. area on the Virginia part of it. And all of those have different looks on life. We need to understand what the different voices are. If you're doing loyalty pledges, we lose those voices because everybody's speaking in one voice. And we all sound like an NPC from a video game. Yes, let's not do that. No, let's not do that. Let's let the redneck speak. Let's let the folks that have political connections in the DC area and live in that area speak. And let's let the folks in Hampton Roads who get to go to the beach far more often than the folks out west do and get to enjoy the tourism and military folks and what that brings. Let's let them be heard. Okay? And all those in between. I'm just as willing to listen to somebody that went to ODU as I am listening to somebody that went to Hampton, Sydney, or Longwood. So, you should too. Here's the last reason why this whole thing is idiotic with the loyalty pledges. This is a state that supported both Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry. We had George Washington, James Monroe, James Madison, George Mason. I mean, I could keep going. All of them had different ideas about things. Thomas Jefferson, oh good lord. Some of his ideas were a little far fetched at the time because, well, he really was a different thinker. Patrick Henry, man argued in court while we were still a British colony against us having to pay the the church. Okay, it was the Anglican Church, not the Catholic Church back then. He basically was the first person to come up with the argument for freedom of religion. And George Washington, I don't think I need to go into too much detail about George Washington. Basically, we had people that had different ideas that worked together. Patrick Henry, I saw a book that some moron wrote talking about how George Washington saved the Constitution from Patrick Henry. Yeah, they disagreed. And then when George Washington became president of the United States, he literally, while working on other things, stopped in Farmville, Virginia, and asked Patrick Henry to be a member of his cabinet. Now, Henry turned him down, and I think he understood that he was near the end of his life, and that's probably why he did it, along with a few other reasons. But those two disagreed about major portions of the Constitution, and he's Washington still wanted Henry in his cabinet. This is Virginia. We like disagreeing with each other. I have no understanding of how a political party that is based in this great state could say, we need to shut away all dissent. And you're going, but we're only doing it for the leaders. We don't want leadership that's disagreeing with us. That's the point, you mental midget. And you're probably going, well, you're calling us names. And it doesn't, it isn't somebody with a high IQ that is sitting there coming up with, oh, we need to make sure everybody agrees with us, so we're going to make sure the leadership agrees with us. Yeah, that's not a high IQ move. That isn't how we grow as a party. That isn't how we hear from the actual voters in this state. No, what that's doing is it's getting rid of dissent. You're basically going against the history of this state with what you're doing. That is one of the bigger things. And I'm against it, as you can tell. So, yeah, read a history book. Now, to wrap this rather long video up, I haven't made a long video like this in a while. To wrap this up, I'm going to remind you folks of one simple truth. Before this country became a nation, while we were the colonies, a gentleman by the name of Patrick Henry, who, by the way, the man's a hero to me. I could talk for hours and hours on Patrick Henry. He's a hero. The man stood in a church in Richmond, St. John's, and gave a actually not that long of a speech, but it was a very impactful speech. And at the end of it, he said, "As for me, give me liberty or give me death." I'm butchering all the wording and everything like that, but everybody knows that give me liberty or give me death. If you stifle those who have a chance to be in leadership, who have a different voice, you're taking away liberty. You're saying that your power is more important than the liberty of the people of this state. You know what? I don't cotton to that. I ain't somebody who's into violence or anything like that. What I am into is fighting for liberty. Fight for freedom. My one word political mantra is freedom. Freedom's the only thing I care about. You're not bringing about freedom by stifling people's voices. And I find it idiotic that you have the feeling that you need to do this. So, I'm going to go after you. I am more than willing to go after you. And if you don't like it, oh well. Because I've already stated in other videos, I think some of the moves that you've made are idiotic, moronic, and so many other icks. Basically, you're an ick. So, yeah, you may not listen to this, but I hope you do, and I hope the few people that actually do listen to my voice realize that this redneck that has had his family here since 1633, even though I grew up in the backwoods of Tennessee, and even though I live in Virginia Beach, I'm more kin to those that live around Bristol and Wise than I am living around Hampton Roads. That I'm willing to put a little bit of redneck sense into you. Because, well, before I report duty to guard the gates of heaven, I'm going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to fight in the best way I can, and the best way I can is by my voice right now. Your attempts to get rid of my liberty and other people's liberty. So, just a thought. This has been Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Y'all in the Virginia GOP need to get your acts together. Bye now. So, folks, that's the story that I wanted to bring you on this video. And I just wanted to say thank you again for coming by. Well, hit like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff if you don't mind. Helps me out. So, y'all have a good day now. Bye.